we have any new faces, but I'm going to go ahead and reintroduce the program this evening and how it's going to happen, okay? I'd like to welcome you all to our general election candidate debate forum, offered for the public's education and sponsored by the Lakewood Chamber of Commerce. I'm Linda Smith, and I'm the President and CEO of the Lakewood Chamber, and I welcome all of you this evening, as well as our candidate. Thank you for joining us, Terry. A couple of notes for the audience. We're pleased to announce that we have two videographers here this evening. Thank you, John and Joni Ortiz, for volunteering your time. If you wish to receive a copy of any or all candidates, you can sign a release form in the back and provide it to our volunteer at the materials table. The form is your pledge to us that you will not edit any part of the video to distort a question or candidate answer. If you're recording a candidate with your own equipment, we also ask that you sign the same form. The Chamber has uploaded last week's candidates forum on our YouTube channel. We've also posted it on Facebook. And if you're having difficulty finding it, please let us know. But once again, we can send you a link to tonight's session as well. Please note that the restrooms are down the hall, right back here. We're also asking you to silence your cell phones. If you don't know how to silence your cell phone, please just turn it off like I did. I'm also requesting that there be no clapping, disruptive noises, or comments from the audience throughout our evening's forum. Our primary election forums were excellent, and for those of you who were here, I think that you would agree. And all the Democratic and Republican candidates appeared for an informative exchange of information and ideas, with the exception of one candidate who could not join us. So before I begin, I need to announce that tonight's debate is no longer a debate, it is a forum, because we will only have Republican candidates. After the primary election results were published, our Democratic candidates have all declined to attend this evening. We asked the Republicans if they would still like to proceed, but with more time to talk with the public, and they all said yes. Therefore, we decided to move ahead and host this evening to provide your right to information with the candidates who opted to be here. So, this next section of the evening will be our 29th Legislative District Senate seat, followed by the candidates for each of the House Legislative District positions. It will be moderated by Brigadier General Doug Richardson and former Lakewood Mayor. His assistant, and keeping the candidates within their allocated time, is Sam Scott. Thank you, Sam. As with previous candidates, we will have a 3-minute opening statement. Responses to questions are to be limited to 1.5 minutes each, and then they will have closing comments at 3 minutes as well. So on that note, please join me in welcoming Mr. Doug Richardson.
Thank you, you already violated the rules. But I appreciate it, thank you very much. Okay, so as Linda pointed out, there are no debates happening this evening. There's a series of 10 questions that I'll be asking all of the candidates from the 29th district. The other candidates are secluded in another room, as were the 28th district candidates who were not speaking. So none of the candidates have had access to the questions before we start this evening, so you're aware. Because we don't want Terry Harder's excellent answers to somehow prep the others. Okay. Now, since it is not a debate, you do not have to rebut yourself.
Okay.
All right. First question is regarding the gas tax. By the governor's request and passed by the legislature on a party line vote in 2021, the Climate Commitment Act, Senate Bill 5126, became law. Part of that law includes a greenhouse gas emissions cap and invest program that will start January 1st.
Open city.
Oh, I understand the candidate would like to give an opening statement. So I'm new at this job. So I do appreciate audience participation throughout when I'm about ready to do it wrong. So right now, Mr. Harder will give us his opening statement.
Very good. Thank you. To the folks of the 29th District, I ask this question. Are you better off today than you were 4 years ago? Crime is up dramatically, and the cost of living is way up. And our schools are failing our children. No one disputes that Steve Conway is a nice guy. The problem is his voting record. Where is the accountability? He doesn't hold the criminals accountable, and he doesn't hold himself accountable. Where is he? Ever since the anti-policing laws passed, folks have been saying that the police have had their hands tied with these new laws. Steve Conway voted yes on 1310 and on 1054. The majority leadership decided that they would let the clock run out on 5919. Law enforcement desperately needs this fixed to a bad law. With the cost of everything going up, the majority in Olympia decided to spend all $15 billion of the surplus with no tax relief. And they also decided to reject the removal of the sales tax on diapers. No tax relief hurts those that are on the lowest end of the income scale, working families. Right now, 70% of Washington's students are failing in math, and over 50% are failing in reading. This is truly awful. We cannot continue this path of failure. We need bold solutions. We need educational choices like career and technical education. And we need to support innovation and accountability. Families need better educational policies so that the next generation can be successful. Again, I ask, are you better off today than you were 4 years ago? Crime is up dramatically, and the cost of living is way up, and the schools are failing our children. We can't continue this. We need new leadership. We need a change this November, or we will continue to have the same policies. I ask that you make that change this November and support me. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, it's still going to be the same question. At the governor's request and passed by the legislature on a party line vote in 2021, the Climate Commitment Act, Senate Bill 5126, became law. Part of that law includes a greenhouse gas emissions cap and invest program that will start on January 1st, 2023. Based on the Department of Ecology's projections released this summer, Washington State's new tax on CO2 emissions will add about 46.6 cents to the cost of a gallon of gas in 2023. According to the U.S. Energy Information Administration, Washington residents already pay about 70 cents per gallon more than the average price in the U.S. What is your position on the law, and what action needs to be taken, if any?
With regards to the tax on gasoline, sorry about that. Maybe you want to hear me. Both of us have issues today. Yes, I don't support any more tax on the gasoline. In fact, it's going to go up this January 1st, and I believe in the next 2 years it'll go up by $1 a gallon. That's way too much. I do not agree with the policy of adding more and more taxes, because working families cannot afford this. We're already burdened. We're already having a very high cost of living. I would say that if I am elected, I would vote to repeal that.
Thank you, and you can direct your answers to the audience.
Oh, okay, I can do that.
No, I mean, it's natural if I'm looking at you asking the question, you could answer me, but you might want to get your best side on the camera. School choice. The U.S. Supreme Court, as a result of its June 2022 decision, Carson et al. Versus Macon, has now made it clear that no state may prevent families from using a generally available public tuition assistance program to send their children to private religious schools. Lawmakers in Washington state are now free to debate choice bills like the 4 bills that were introduced during the 2022 legislative session. Those bills would have given families who want options up to $10,000 to send their children to private school. If the state legislature were to pass these bills, private religious schools must be included in the list of possible options families have to educate their children. What is your position on this issue and the legislation that was introduced in 2022?
I very much support choice in education, because right now, as I said, our schools are failing our children. 70% of Washington students are failing math, and over 50% are failing reading. We need the money to follow the students. So I would very much support those bills.
Okay, this is on improving public education. Children are returning to the classroom, but there is no dispute that the COVID lockdown has set our children back in their education and that math and reading skills have declined. Further, there is a significant percentage of children that have not returned to the public classroom for reasons unknown to the schools and the Office of Public Instruction. What do you believe needs to change to improve our public education and improve children's test scores?
Well, I believe very much in competition. I think charter schools and the ability for the money to follow the child is a great solution. With regards to students coming back to class, I mean, it is mandatory that they have education. So I don't understand why they're not there.
Governor Inslee has taken several actions in recent years to direct his agencies, especially the Department of Ecology and the Building Council, to adopt rules to implement his environmental goals. Many impacted stakeholders view this aggressive rulemaking action to be a legislative responsibility and not within the powers of a non-elected body. What are your views on this issue? And if elected, what actions will you take to return decision-making to the legislature?
In fact, I definitely would like to see the legislature have that power back. One of the biggest problems with government has been bureaucracies that are not accountable. They need to be accountable to the elected. It's fairly simple. And, you know, that way the citizens of Washington State get a choice through their elected officials.
The Puget Sound Auto Theft Task Force officers placed the blame for the dramatic increase in auto thefts on 2 pieces of legislation which are preventing them from doing their job. The first severely restricts police ability to pursue the criminal. That would be Senate Bill 5919. The second law, House Bill 1140, prevents officers from talking to suspected criminals that are juveniles without an attorney present. As a result, it is believed that gangs are hiring minors to commit crimes. Do you believe that their assessment is accurate? And if so, what do you do to correct this problem if elected?
Indeed, last night I talked with Keith Swank. He's a captain on the Seattle Police Force, and he says exactly that when they can't talk to the minor, it makes it way too easy for the gangs to recruit them, because obviously they'll get an attorney to begin with, and there will be no repercussions, and the gang members that have recruited them are going to reap the benefits of that stolen car. It's just an untenable situation that we're in now. We need to reconsider those anti-policing laws, especially 5919, the anti-pursuit law. They let the clock run out on that, so we need to revisit that, because law enforcement desperately needs that fix to a bad law.
One of the state's actuaries in the research organization Washington Policy Center find that the Washington Cares Long-Term Care Act is and will continue to be insolvent by at least $15 billion unless the mandatory payroll tax is increased substantially. Further, the benefit allowed under the law is $36,500, which is well understood to be an amount inadequate for any long-term care for more than a few short months. The legislature placed a constitutional amendment on the ballot to create additional funding for the program. It failed 54 to 46%. The only action last session by the legislature was to create more exemptions to the mandatory tax and delay the tax for a year. This issue must be addressed in the coming session. What do you propose for a solution to the long-term health care program?
Well, I asked the question, why delay it? It is a bad law. We need to repeal it. It's that simple. Nobody wants it as a citizen, and the employers don't like it. The only people that like it are the lawmakers. It's time they start listening to the citizens of Washington. We need to reject it, and I would vote to do that.
Next, the state Supreme Court has agreed to a direct review of the lower court's decision declaring that the legislature acted illegally in passing the capital gains tax. The lower court stated that the application of the capital gains tax meets the definition of an income tax, which is restricted by the Constitution. This decision is expected before the legislature convenes in 2023. What is your position on the current capital gains tax, and what legislative action, if any, is needed on this issue?
I certainly do not like that tax. Any tax as an income tax should have been rejected to begin with. Over and over again, the citizens of Washington have rejected income tax. And this is just kind of a sly way to get around the law. So I would certainly reject any legislation at all that would cause us to have an income tax. That's as simple as I can be.
Much has been done at the state and local level to improve housing for low income and remove the homeless from the streets. Do you believe more needs to be done? Also, how do we ensure that the middle class doesn't get squeezed out of the marketplace in the process?
Well, that is a simplified solution, just to provide homes for the homeless. We need to do a lot more with regards to the drug addicted and the mentally ill. If we just house them, if we just feed them, we haven't actually solved the problem. So, the housing in Washington State is restricted by a lot of land use and a lot of things, not just with the availability of low-cost housing. I just say that it's a wrong-headed approach. We need to look at a comprehensive approach for homelessness that includes taking care of addiction and of the mentally ill, so that the homeless have jobs and can support themselves in a productive society.
This question is probably going to be longer for me to read than for you to answer.
Okay.
Injuries in the workplace caused by repetitive motion, such as a grocery clerk scanning the price of products, is regulated by the federal government and our state and labor and industries implements the regulation. These regulations are known as ergonomic regulations. Organized labor pushed a bill last session to impose heavier regulation at the state level and to increase the compensation of workers' comp to workers. Businesses, especially small business, opposed the state exceeding an already stringent federal rule. The bill passed the House on a party line vote and failed to be brought to a vote on the Senate floor in the waning days of the session. What is your view of the issue, and if elected, how will you vote if this issue is brought back in the 2023 session?
I reject any cost to small business. They're already overburdened with so much as far as tax and regulation is concerned. Most businesses look out for their employees. They want, if they are asking for something such as, hey, I got a little carpal tunnel, I need a keyboard that will help me. Most employers will certainly allow them to have that and buy it for them without anybody pressuring them. They want to keep their good employees. I just have a problem with government mandating things like that. But then again, there is insurance for those that actually have a genuine problem caused by the work, because a lot of times people don't say anything. And so I would reject anything at this particular point that would add to small business.
This is the last question.
All right.
Are you familiar with the most recent state's forecast by the Economic Forecast Council? If so, what is the projected surplus or deficit at this time? How does the legislature need to address the issue in the next session?
I'm not familiar because the numbers have bounced around so much. I'm going to say it's probably going to be somewhere in the area between $6 and $7 billion. And they certainly need to return that money to those who put it in. It's not their money. That tax money is the citizens' money. So it should be returned, because we certainly need that in these tough economic times.
Somebody was tempted. Okay, it's now time for your closing statement, and you have 3 minutes to do so.
Okay. Again, to the folks of the 29th District, are you better off today than you were 4 years ago? Crime is up dramatically, and the cost of living is way up, and our schools are failing our children. No one disputes that the incumbent, Steve Conway, is a nice guy. The problem is his voting record. Where is the accountability? He doesn't hold the criminals accountable, and he doesn't hold himself accountable. Where is he? Ever since the anti-policing bills have passed, crime has spiked dramatically. Folks say the police have had their hands tied with these new laws. Steve Conway voted yes on 1310 and on 1054. And the majority party leadership, which he is part of, came to the extremists and ran out the clock on 5919. Law enforcement desperately needs this fix to a bad law. With the cost of everything going up, the majority party decided to spend the entire $15 billion surplus with no tax relief, even during the pandemic. They even rejected the sales tax removal on diapers. No tax relief hurts those who can afford at least, working families. And right now, 70% of Washington students are failing math, and over 50% are failing in reading. These are truly awful numbers. We can't continue down this path of high failure. The 29th District needs bold solutions. We need educational choice that includes career and technical education, while supporting innovation and accountability. Families deserve better education policies so that our next generation can be successful. Again, I ask, are you better off today than you were 4 years ago? Crime is up dramatically and the cost of living is way up. and our schools are failing our children. Unless we change who we elect in November, we can expect more of the same. To make that change, I would appreciate your support. Thank you.
Thank you. I want to give Mr. Harder the opportunity to mingle with the audience before we move to the next candidate. So it's 7:11, which means all the water you want is back there. It's 7:11. Let's try to start the next one at, say, 7:15.
Okay.
Okay?